Okay, so imagine this. You watched Dave Ramsey, you got fired up, you listed out all your debts, smallest to largest, you got up a credit card, maybe even posted it on Instagram, and for the first 2 months, you were crushing it. You threw an extra $300 at that little $800 store credit card. You paid it off, you screamed, you felt like a financial genius. And then month 3 hits, and month 4. And suddenly, you're staring at a $14,000 car loan that feels like it hasn't moved in 6 weeks. The dopamine is gone. The momentum is gone. And now you're swiping your credit card again at Target because, and I quote, "I deserve something nice. I've been working so hard." If that sounds uncomfortably specific, it's because I've gotten that exact DM probably 400 times in the last year alone. Here's the thing. The debt snowball is not broken, but the way most people use the debt snowball is fundamentally flawed, and almost nobody is talking about the specific reason why. And no, it's not the interest rate argument, that's surface-level stuff. The real problem goes way deeper, and if you don't fix it before you start paying off debt, you will almost certainly end up right back where you started. So today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what that problem is, the math and the psychology behind it, and the specific fix that will change how you approach every dollar of debt you owe. My name is Thomas, and I spend way too much time thinking about debt payoff strategies, behavioral finance, and why smart people keep making the same money mistakes over and over again. If you're someone who's tried to get out of debt, maybe more than once, and you feel like you keep hitting a wall or sliding backwards, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Seriously, it's free. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm to show this to more people who actually need to hear it. All right, let's get into this. So let me set the foundation real quick for anyone who's newer here. The debt snowball method, popularized by Dave Ramsey, says you list all your debts from the smallest balance to the largest balance. You make minimum payments on everything except the smallest one. You throw every extra dollar you can find at that smallest debt. Once it's gone, you take that entire payment and roll it into the next smallest debt. And you just keep going. The payment snowballs and gets bigger and bigger as you eliminate each debt. And look, on paper, this is genuinely powerful. There's a reason it's the most popular debt payoff strategy in America. A study published in the Harvard Business Review back in 2016 found that people who focused on paying off small balances first were statistically more likely to eliminate their total debt than people who tried to optimize by interest rate. That's the debt avalanche crowd, and we'll come back to them. The psychological win of crossing a debt off your list is real. It's not just a feeling, it literally triggers a dopamine response in your brain, the same chemical that fires when you get a like on social media or take a bite of really good food. Your brain goes, "We accomplished something, let's do that again." So the snowball works. I'm not here to trash the snowball, but here's what most people don't realize. The snowball method has a massive assumption baked into it that almost no financial educator actually says out loud. And when that assumption doesn't hold, which for most people it doesn't, the whole system falls apart somewhere between month 3 and month 8.
The assumption nobody talks about. Here's the assumption. The debt snowball assumes you have already fixed the behavior that created the debt in the first place. Read that again. Let it sit. The debt snowball is a payoff strategy. It is not a behavior change strategy. It tells you the order in which to attack your balances. It does not address why those balances exist. And that distinction, that gap, is where millions of people fall into what I call the debt snowball trap. Let me give you a real example. Let's say Sarah has 4 debts: a $600 medical bill, a $2,400 credit card, a $9,000 credit card, and a $22,000 car loan. Total debt, $34,000. Sarah watches a motivational video, gets fired up, starts the snowball. She knocks out that $600 medical bill in 5 weeks. Amazing! She feels incredible. She rolls that payment into the $2,400 credit card. 4 months later, that one's gone too. She's eliminated 2 debts in about 5.5 months. She's posting about it. Her friends are impressed. But here's what happened in the background during those 5.5 months. Sarah still doesn't have a real budget. she never identified that she spends $280 a month on subscriptions and convenience spending she doesn't track. She's still using Afterpay and Klarna for clothing purchases because it's not real debt. And because she felt so good about paying off those two small debts, she justified a $1,200 weekend trip with friends and put $800 of it on the $9,000 credit card she was supposed to attack next. So that $9,000 balance, it's now $9,800, plus 5 months of interest at 22% APR. She's actually further behind on her total debt load than when she started, even though she eliminated 2 accounts. And this isn't hypothetical. A 2023 study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that nearly 60% of people who pay off a credit card balance add new debt to the same card or a different card within 12 months. 6 out of 10. The snowball didn't fail Sarah. Sarah was never set up to succeed with the snowball because nobody told her to fix the leak in the boat before she started bailing out water. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Thomas, but that's obvious. Just stop spending. That's a discipline problem. And I hear you, but it's actually way more nuanced than that. And understanding why is the difference between being someone who gets out of debt permanently and someone who yo-yos in and out of debt for 15 years. Here's what's actually happening in your brain. When you start the debt snowball and you get that first win, paying off that first small debt, your brain registers that as a completed goal. And research in behavioral psychology, particularly from a study by Dr. Min-Jung Koo and Alet Fishbach at the University of Chicago, shows that when people feel they've made progress toward a goal, they unconsciously give themselves permission to slack off. Psychologists call this moral licensing, or the progress paradox. It's the same reason people go to the gym on Monday and then eat a whole pizza on Tuesday. I earned it. With debt payoff, it looks like this. I paid off my first credit card, so it's fine if I buy this thing I've been wanting. You don't even realize you're doing it. It feels rational in the moment, but it's your brain literally undermining your own progress because the emotional reward of the first win reduced your perceived urgency. And here's where it gets really interesting. The debt snowball is actually more vulnerable to this psychological trap than the debt avalanche. Think about it. The snowball is designed to give you quick wins early. That's its whole selling point. But every quick win is also a trigger for your brain to relax. The faster the early wins come, the sooner the self-sabotage kicks in. Nobody talks about this, and it kind of drives me crazy because the advice is always just stay gazelle intense. Which, look, I love the enthusiasm, but just stay motivated is not a strategy. That's like telling someone with a spending problem to just stop spending. If it were that simple, consumer debt wouldn't be at an all-time high of $17.7 trillion in the US right now, according to the latest data from the New York Fed. Here's the fix, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along and then close YouTube and open DoorDash. Before you throw a single extra dollar at your smallest debt, you need to do what I call a leak audit. And I want you to do it in this specific order. Step 1. Identify your debt creation pattern. Pull up the last 90 days of transactions on every account you have. Every checking account, every credit card, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all of it. And I want you to categorize every single transaction into one of 3 buckets. Needs, rent, utilities, minimum debt payments, groceries, insurance, actual needs. Planned wants, things you intentionally budgeted for and purchased on purpose, a dinner out you planned, a subscription you actually use. And leak spending, anything you bought impulsively, didn't plan for, forgot about, or can't even remember. That 3rd bucket, leak spending, is the number that determines whether your debt snowball will work or not. For most people, when they actually do this exercise, honestly, leak spending is somewhere between $200 and $700 per month. I've seen people find $900 and their jaws just drop because they had no idea. Let me put that in perspective. If you have $500 a month in leak spending and you're trying to put an extra $400 a month toward your debt snowball, you're literally running on a treadmill. You're fighting yourself. For every step forward, you're almost taking a step back somewhere else.
Step 2. Plug the 3 biggest leaks before you start. I don't need you to become a monk. I'm not going to tell you to stop buying coffee. That advice is tired, and frankly, the math on it doesn't even matter for most people's situations. What I am going to tell you is to find your top 3 leak spending categories and put a system in place. A system says, I deleted DoorDash from my phone, I meal prepped on Sunday, and I moved my food budget into a separate checking account with a debit card, so when it's gone, it's gone. Willpower says, I'll stop impulse buying on Amazon. A system says, I removed my saved credit card from Amazon, I installed a 24-hour browser extension that makes me wait before any purchase, and I created a wait 48 hours note on my phone where I write down anything I want to buy before I actually buy it. You see the difference? Systems remove the decision from the moment. Because in the moment, your brain will always find a justification. Always. You cannot out-discipline a broken system. You just can't. Step 3. Build a buffer before you snowball. Now, this is where I might catch some heat because this goes against traditional snowball advice. Most snowball advice says, get your $1,000 emergency fund, then throw everything at debt. And I get the logic, but here's the problem I've seen over and over and over again. A $1,000 emergency fund in 2024 is basically nothing. Your car breaks down? That's $800. You have an ER visit with insurance? That's $500 to $2,000, depending on your plan. Your dog gets sick? That's $1,500, easy. When your tiny emergency fund gets wiped out, and it will get wiped out, you go right back to the credit card. And now you've lost your momentum, you've added new debt, and psychologically, you feel like a failure, so you stop the whole plan. I think, and look, this is my opinion, reasonable people can disagree, I think you should have at least 1 month of essential expenses saved before you aggressively snowball. For most people, that's somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000. Yes, it takes longer to start. Yes, you're losing money to interest during that time. But the math only matters if you actually finish the plan. And the data says most people don't finish when they're one flat tire away from going back into debt. Let me show you the math on this. Say you owe $34,000 at an average interest rate of 18%. If you have a $1,000 emergency fund and you start snowballing with $500 extra per month, but you have 2 emergencies in the first year that cost $1,500 each, and you put both on a credit card, which statistically is very likely, you've added $3,000 in new debt plus interest. Your effective payoff timeline barely moves. You might even go backwards for 6 months. But if you spend 3 extra months building a $3,500 buffer first, and those same 2 emergencies hit, you absorb them without new debt. Your snowball stays intact, your momentum stays intact, and you actually finish 8 to 14 months faster in the long run because you never backslid. The math on this surprised even me when I first ran it. The slightly slower start wins over the long term almost every time when you factor in real-life disruptions. Okay, I want to go one level deeper because I think this is actually the most important part of this entire video, and nobody in the personal finance space really talks about it this way. The debt snowball treats debt like a math problem. List your balances, pay them in order, done. But debt is not a math problem. Debt is an identity problem. Here's what I mean. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, or someone who always has debt, or someone who just isn't good at this stuff, then no payoff strategy in the world will give you lasting results because your actions will always drift back toward your identity. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, and it absolutely applies here. He says the most effective way to change your behavior is not to focus on the outcome you want. I want to be debt-free, but to focus on the identity you want. I am someone who doesn't carry consumer debt. Those sound similar, but they're fundamentally different. The first one has an end point. You pay it off, you celebrate, and then what? You don't have a framework for future decisions. The second one gives you a decision-making filter for the rest of your life. Would someone who doesn't carry consumer debt finance this furniture at 0% for 36 months? Maybe, maybe not. But at least now you're asking the question through the right lens. I had a conversation with someone in my community. I'll call him Marcus. Marcus had paid off $28,000 in 2 years, snowball method. He was incredibly disciplined.
he celebrated, and within 18 months, he was $19,000 back in debt. Different debts, a new car loan, 2 credit cards, a personal loan for a vacation. When I asked him what happened, he said something that stuck with me. He said, "I never actually learned how to be someone without debt. I just learned how to pay it off." That is the debt snowball problem nobody talks about. The strategy gives you a how. It never gives you a who. And without the who, the how is just temporary.
All right, so let me give you the revised framework. Think of this as the Debt Snowball 2.0. And here's the order. Phase 1, the Leak Audit, week 1 to 2. Do the 90-day transaction review. Find your leak spending number. Identify your top 3 leaks. Put systems, not willpower, in place to plug them. This alone will probably free up $200 to $500 a month that you didn't even realize you were losing. Phase 2, the buffer build, month 1 to 3. Save 1 month of essential expenses. I know it's not sexy, I know you want to start attacking debt, but this buffer is what keeps your snowball from melting the first time life punches you in the face, and life will punch you in the face. Phase 3, the identity declaration, right now. Write down, literally write it down on paper, not in your phone, who you are becoming, not what you're doing, who you are becoming. I am becoming someone who is intentional with every dollar. I am becoming someone who builds wealth, not debt. Put it somewhere you see it every day. This sounds cheesy. I don't care. It works. The research on identity-based habit formation is overwhelming. Phase 4, the snowball, month 3 onward. Now you start the snowball. List your debts smallest to largest. Throw everything at the smallest one. Roll payments up as you go. But here's the difference. Now you're doing it with the leaks plugged, the buffer in place, and an identity that supports the behavior. You're not just paying off debt. You are becoming a different person with money. And when you do it this way, the quick wins from the snowball actually reinforce your new identity instead of triggering self-sabotage. Paying off that first debt doesn't make you think, "I earned a reward." It makes you think, "This is who I am now." That's the shift. That's everything. Now, I know some of you are thinking, "Thomas, this is a lot of extra work before I even start paying off debt. Can't I just start?" You can, and if you have incredible discipline and no spending leaks and a stable income with no chance of emergencies, go for it, seriously. But if you've tried to pay off debt before and it didn't stick, if you've started and stopped, if you've paid off a card and then run it back up, if you're being honest with yourself and you know there's a pattern, then no, I don't think you should just start. I think you should fix the foundation first. It's been 3 months. 3 months of preparation to potentially save you years of yo-yoing. And some of you are thinking, "But the interest is costing me money every day I don't start." You're right, it is. Let's do the math. If you owe $30,000 at an average rate of 20%, you're accruing roughly $500 a month in interest. Over 3 months of buffer building, that's about $1,500 in additional interest. That sounds like a lot until you compare it to the cost of restarting. If you start the snowball without the buffer, hit an emergency in month 4, add $2,000 back to a credit card, lose your momentum, stop for 3 months, and then restart, which is the most common pattern, you've lost roughly $3,000 to $4,000 in interest, new debt, and wasted payments. Plus, you've lost 6 months of time and a whole lot of confidence. $1,500 to build a proper foundation, or $4,000 and 6 months lost to a false start. The math is not even close. Look, here's the truth that I genuinely want you to hear today. The fact that you clicked on this video means you're already ahead of most people. Most people don't even think about their debt strategically. They just make minimums and hope for the best. You're not doing that. You're looking for a better way. That matters. But I need you to be honest with yourself about where you actually are. Not where you want to be, not where you tell people you are, where you actually are. If you've got leaks in your spending, fix them first. If your emergency buffer is 1 bad week away from disappearing, build it up. And if you've been thinking of yourself as someone who's bad with money, stop right now, today. That identity does not serve you, and it is not permanent.
You are not your debt balance. You are not your past financial decisions. You are the person who showed up today, who's willing to learn, who's willing to change the pattern. Now go do the leak audit this week, not next week, not when things calm down, this week. Pull up your transactions, find the number, and then come back and tell me in the comments what you found, because I guarantee it's going to surprise you. If this video helped you, smash that thumbs up button. It genuinely helps the channel, and it helps more people find this information who need it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I put out videos like this every week to help you build a financial life that actually works in the real world, not just on a spreadsheet. I'll see you in the next one.